This video will contain spoilers from the off, so remember, you've been warned. Mazey Day formed 1/5 of Season 6 of Black Mirror, and I think it's safe to say that it's an episode that has and will go down as the worst episode in the entirety of the show. Managing to dethrone the likes of Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2 and the Waldo moment, it's a day that I never thought I'd see. However, it has happened. There were so many things about this episode that really stood out for it being misplaced and almost feeling like it didn't belong under the Black Mirror umbrella, despite it having a lot of potential that was originally there. So with that, I thought I'd break down and explain why. So let's get into it. Here is why Mazey Day is the worst episode of Black Mirror. I'll be breaking this video down by the main discussion points as to why this episode is considered the worst. The lack of identity. One of the main issues with this episode of the show was the fact that it lacked the identity that a Black Mirror episode usually has, not only when compared to the rest of the season, but when compared to the rest of the show. It felt like it could have been an inclusion in one of the many other anthologies that exist out there in the world. It felt like it would have been more suited to Cabinet of Curiosities, Inside Number 9, or even a Twilight Zone episode, which I think is a bad thing for a show like Black Mirror, because it's become so good at what it does, and with that comes expectation. Black Mirror at its core is about the demise of a character which can sometimes and more often than not be assisted through the aid of a piece of technology, and its implementation and obsession in their life. However, there have been episodes before that haven't utilized a futuristic piece of tech, like Shut Up and Dance, the National Anthem, and Lock Henry. However, as Black Mirror has gradually transcended the medium of television, and has become synonymous with just general technological advancements in our society, it's grown the label of being predominantly associated with advanced tech, hence one reason why the lack of a futuristic element in society was missed in this episode. It was a society that we all recognized, and there was nothing that different about it, which made it feel like the world didn't sit within the Black Mirror universe. Another main thing about this episode's identity was the fact that Black Mirror drifted into the supernatural space, and it's something that's the opposite of what the show is. It's never really steered into that realm before, because it tends to focus on stories that are far more complex and thought-provoking. But with this one having a reveal that one of the characters was a werewolf, metaphorical or not, it didn't land with the impact that it wanted or needed to, especially in order to be able to justify the change in direction. I understood what they were going for by making Mazey a werewolf, but the moment that she transformed in the episode, the show took a sharp turn downwards. This didn't feel like a Black Mirror episode. I sat there at the end like I usually do with many other episodes thinking, what did I just watch? But I did it for the wrong reasons with this one, in pure shock that this was a Black Mirror episode. It wasn't what I wanted, it wasn't what I expected, and in my opinion, it wasn't really Black Mirror. The lack of an impactful punch. Black Mirror tends to finish an episode with an intelligent twist that really does hit you in the gut and make you feel what it wants you to. For example, the scream in Be Right Back, the end of Shut Up and Dance where Kenny's mother screams "Kids Kenny," Bing's powerful speech in 15 Million Merits, and Lacey's breakdown in Nosedive. There's so many great moments that really do hit you. However, this one didn't have a single moment that was like that in the entirety of the episode. I felt like it was gradually building towards one, but the werewolf just threw it off. The idea of weaponizing cameras and having them as these things that do cause damage, pain, and can ultimately leave the photographer with blood on their hands was such an interesting concept. And it is a Black Mirror concept at its core. But the werewolf just didn't really make sense, and the final line where Bo took a photo and we were left wondering if the weapon was fired or the camera was, it just didn't quite work or have that meaningful execution that usually comes with episodes of this show. The lack of a thought-provoking moment and the punch that we all desire when watching the show was a massive problem for this episode, and one main reason as to why it felt quite substanceless. The lack of connection with the characters. Any good show, regardless of it being a Black Mirror episode, needs to have characters that you can root for, stand against, and get invested in. Within this episode, it just didn't really feel like there was anybody to get behind. Were we rooting for Bo, even though she was kind of the villain? Or were we rooting for Mazey because she was the subject of the relentless paparazzi hunt, but also she murdered somebody? So it was really difficult to attach to a character and understand how we were supposed to feel. Because deep down, both sides of the episode, in terms of the photographer and the subject, weren't good people. So there was nobody to really latch onto and root for. Rather, we were a fly on the wall in an episode where it wasn't intended for us to be a fly on the wall. The potential that was there. The biggest issue for me with this episode was the fact that there was a lot of potential that was there, and it was going okay until the werewolf transformation happened. The concept was present and we were slowly building towards something interesting. We got to see how the paparazzi were ruthless, relentless, and how they almost didn't view the subjects of their photographs as humans. And we also saw that Mazey Day was struggling with coming to terms with the fact that she caused the death of another human being. A couple of things that had weight to them and could have gone in any direction. It could have almost become like the Shut Up and Dance episode, but it didn't. The moment that the werewolf transformation happened, it put the nail in the coffin and confirmed that this episode was over. As soon as it happened, it almost turned into the equivalent of a slasher movie, where people were just being butchered left, right and center, and it lost all of the core meaning and weight that it had allowed itself to build up until that point, almost cheapening it slightly, to the point where it didn't matter what the episode was about, because the werewolf and the fact that there was one stole the episode and it clouded your mind when thinking about it. I would have loved for the power of the photographs and the weaponization of cameras to have been leaned in on more, and for Bo to be perceived as the monster, but that just never happened. But instead, we got a supernatural werewolf running around and killing people. It's a shame that Mazey Day was an episode that we subsequently received in Season 6 of the show, considering that Black Mirror episodes don't come around that often and we only get a handful of episodes when they do. This one just felt like a little bit of a waste. It's rather telling that the episode that's considered the worst is also the shortest in the season. The shortest by a long way as well. With the likes of Beyond the Sea and Demon 79 clocking in at well over an hour, they definitely got the attention that they deserved. So it does make me wonder if this one was rushed in some way when it came to the writing. But hey, I guess we'll never know. I love Black Mirror as a show and it's one of my favorites, but it's not a show that I ever thought I'd do a video like this on, because most of the time it does always deliver. And out of the 28 episodes that make up the show, there's only ever been a handful of duds. But this one takes the crown, and for all of the reasons that I just mentioned, it deservedly holds the title as the worst episode in the entirety of Black Mirror. Ashley, Waldo, you're free. I'd love to know if you think the same or if you disagree with what I said, so do let me know in the comments. So, there you have it, why Mazey Day is the worst episode of Black Mirror. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Do you think this episode is the worst? Leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.